Yeah, now it's official. Just like in a studio.
Whether they're looking at you and not us.
No, they're actually looking at you.
Oh, no.
So just so you know, that's the camera that's recording. Okay.
Okay.
We all set? Can you hear us at home, Stephanie?
Set, but what I'm seeing on the screen is with the side slides, not full screen.
Is that
There you
better?
go. Yep, all set.
Okay. What? Oh, you're gonna share it. Yep. New share, like the full share.
Okay, and this one, start over.
You think we know how to do that? Yes. Just good.
I think this is what they're seeing.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out on this snowy March night. We appreciate it very much. My name is Tyler Reese. I'm the Associate Engineer for the City of Portsmouth. I am joined by Terry Demiris, the City Engineer, Dave DeFosis, our Construction Engineer, and Mark Beltrowit, our Design Engineer for this project. A special thank you to Councillor Bagley for joining us tonight. We very much appreciate to see you here. So we'll start off with a little bit of Panaway history. Panaway was built in the early 40s by the Defense Home Corps as shipyard housing for World War II. The last significant construction project in this neighborhood was the sewer separation and repaving project in 2001. So this is a little overview map of Panaway. As you can see, we got Colonial going around the outside and I-93 down here in the lower right corner.
95.
95. Yeah.
The other 90.
Tyler, I'm not seeing anything.
Ah,
Sure. No, sure.
Better? Stephanie?
Still seeing the stuff on the side. It's not full screen.
Okay?
Yes.
Okay, as we were saying earlier, sorry for the delay. The current sidewalk locations in Panaway Manor are shown with these yellow lines that indicate where the present sidewalks are. As you can see, every street in Panaway currently has a sidewalk on both sides of the street. So this is just a general roadway cross section of a typical road in Panaway. This happens to be Colonial. These numbers are approximate. They vary slightly throughout the neighborhood. However, typically in Panaway, there's about a 2.5 foot sidewalk, followed by approximately 8 feet of grass strip, followed by about 24 feet of roadway. And that is mirrored on the other side of the road with the grass strip and the sidewalk. So our current sidewalk conditions, as I just mentioned, they are approximately 2.5 feet wide. They are asphalt. They have been heavily heaved by tree roots over the past 80 or so years. They are heavily moss and soil covered in select areas. And there was also poor sidewalk drainage throughout the neighborhood due to the natural settlement of the sidewalk over time, as well as the gradual buildup of yards. So this is just some photos of current sidewalk conditions that show the heaving of the roots of the asphalt. This is pretty typical of any real snapshot in Panaway. So in December of 2021 and January of 2022, we initiated a survey among area residents. We passed out 150 surveys and we got back over 50 responses. So a third of you responded, which is pretty good in our book. The majority obviously confirmed that the sidewalks are in poor condition and that the poor condition of the sidewalk impacts residents' usage of said sidewalks. Additionally, 90% of respondents favored improved sidewalks.
Ooh, that's beautiful.
So our proposed upgrades, as you can see, 5.5 foot wide concrete sidewalks. These are Americans with Disabilities Act or ADA compliant, as well as they match the current city standards for modern sidewalks. So there were some considerations that we had to take when we were determining the locations where we would put these sidewalks. First and foremost, we wanted to impact the fewest amount of trees as possible to try to retain the tree-lined nature of the neighborhood as it currently exists. We also wanted to maximize the amount of houses that would receive replaced sidewalks. We also wanted to improve walkability throughout this entire neighborhood. And we were also constrained with our available funding. So we found it necessary to break this project into 2 distinct phases. So this is a map of our proposed work for phase 1. It is approximately 3,700 feet of sidewalk around the perimeter of Colonial Drive, the outside loop of Panaway, if you will. As you can see in yellow, that would be the new concrete sidewalk location. We are proposing removing all of the sidewalk locations shown in blue and reloaming them. This is our proposed future work for phase 2. It's approximately 1,500 feet of new concrete sidewalks on Mason and Decatur, the interior roads of Panaway. Again, as in the previous slide, the yellow indicates new concrete sidewalks, while the blue represents removal of the existing asphalt sidewalks. So sidewalk placement, Dave, if you could point to the backside of the sidewalks right there. That is the backside of the sidewalks as they exist currently, as we understand, forms the property line boundary between your property and the city easement. So obviously we are constrained in that manner. We cannot move on to your property, obviously. Instead, we will be extending the extra width of the sidewalks into that green strip that separates the sidewalks from the roadway. As you can see at this far back one, some of the time that will not be an issue as it currently just exists as grass. However, there will be some tree conflicts, as you can see right here. Next slide, please. Tree impacts. Unfortunately, that is going to be a necessary reality of this project. As you can see, we are more than doubling the width of the existing sidewalk. So as you can see on the left side, that is a tree that would likely necessitate removal, as doubling the sidewalk would put the edge of the sidewalk into the main trunk area of the tree. Over here on the right, we can see a tree that we may be able to avoid removal completely. As you can see, there is still some space between the existing sidewalk and that tree. The city does have experience in aligning sidewalks to avoid trees when possible. These are examples of Lincoln Avenue. As you can see, the city did try its hardest to route the sidewalks around the root balls and the tree to try to preserve the trees as best possible.
Excuse me, that's still ADA compliant?
That is a very good question. It is, yes. You're allowed to narrow a sidewalk for a shortened period of time. This is our proposed design plan for Panaway. Phase 2, which is the interior roads of Panaway, have been shaded out here for all intents and purposes, as that will be a future project. However, as you can see, the trees are indicated in green, and trees that may be affected by the sidewalk expansion are indicated with the orange X. Now, just because a tree has an orange X on it does not mean that it will be removed. It means that it will likely be affected. That means that we might try to do one of the bump outs that you saw earlier, like on Lincoln Ave. And in worst case scenarios, it would likely mean the tree is removed. In this stage of the plan, for phase 1, up to 39 trees will be affected. Additionally, the yellow little splotches that you see up there, those are crosswalks. We'll be adding crosswalks to connect the new sidewalks.
Or crossings.
Or crossings. So while we were going through this, we did feel it necessary to present another alternative that would avoid tree impacts. These are called advisory pedestrian shoulders, and these ones are installed on Van Buren over in Elwyn Park. The benefit of these is they have no effect to the trees at all, as they exist on the existing roadway. This would involve the removal of the existing sidewalks and the painting of these pedestrian corridors that you can see. Obviously, we understand that this is no true replacement for a dedicated sidewalk, as it offers no physical protection from traffic. However, we did think that it was important to include at least one alternative that would greatly reduce the amount of trees that would be affected by this project. So some next steps. We are currently in the public input step. That's why you're all here. Using input from this meeting, we will be completing our preliminary design and moving towards a more concrete number of trees that will be affected. We will be going for the Tree and Greenery Committee, and we're seeking their input onto this project. We will then be finalizing design, advertising, and opening for bids in spring of this year. Our anticipated phase 1 construction is in summer and fall of this year, barring any unforeseen delays. See, at this time, I would like to hand it over to my colleagues to add in anything that I may have forgotten, and then we'll open it up to public comment. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. So that's our first cut on what we are expecting this to look like. I did do a drive-by kind of preliminary assessment in your neighborhood today. And my preliminary count was if we went for the option A, which is the preferred alternative, I think, most likely 29 trees are going to get impacted. Not the 39. There was 39 orange X's on that plan. I think we could probably work around 10 trees. The other 29, I think, are going to be just because the raised roots or the actual conflict of trees is just so big that we just can't work around it. So that's really where we were. We went to Trees and Greenery today for another project. We were there for Islington Street, phase 2, which is coming out of it soon. And we let Trees and Greenery know that this was coming up. We also let them know that we would try to MacGyver as many solutions around these existing trees as possible. One of the reasons why we are not showing sidewalks on the inner loop really is to try to try to eliminate the number of trees that are getting impacted so that we don't lose the entire canopy. We really are very sensitive to that. You know, the whole project kind of gives us a little heartburn because the trees are so nice. But at the same time, we acknowledge the need for a sidewalk at least on one side. So that's really where we are. We think we have budget to do phase one. We're sending phase one out to bid with 2 other streets, a small amount of sidewalk in Maple Haven, and a small amount of sidewalk on State Street in the Cabot to Columbia area. So we're gonna send 3 different areas out to bid all at the same time, so that we can build sidewalks. We've been saving sidewalk money up for a couple of years now, anticipating this project. So we think we have the funding to do it, and at this point, so Mark's our design engineer. You'll see him going through the neighborhood. He's gonna be away next week, but after that, we'll start going through final design. So if you see Mark walking around the neighborhood, that's what he's doing. And I think we're gonna open it up to public input. We really want to hear what you have to say. Again, we don't live in your neighborhood, you do. So I can see the hand, let's go.
Can you include a sidewalk from the driveway of Sherman School around the corner to Borthwick?
Yeah, you know
That's
what?
one small area that's in horrible condition.
I totally agree with you. So I was out there today, and I saw it again, but or snow. But I definitely agree with you. So if we
It would
can't,
complete,
I understand.
Yeah.
I'll get it on a list. I
okay,
don't know if it's gonna make phase one, but it might make phase two.
okay.
There was just real quick, there was a question in the chat that is important to note on as well. I don't know if you can pull it up, Tyler, who it was, but the question was whether or not we, for those trees that do end up getting impacted and we have to remove them, whether or not new ones go into place. That's kind of been a standard approach that we've done for all of our projects. So we do have to remove trees. We'll be planning for new trees that are of the appropriate species, especially if they are underneath the utility lines. Dave mentioned this a little bit earlier, and there's some trees that are already in danger of being removed because of the size they are and their canopy and how much they have to be pruned in order to deal with Eversource.
The good news is, of the 29 that I just mentioned, I counted 18 trees that are in kind of direct conflict with the wires now.
Right.
So there's a lot of costs that they're kind of in jeopardy already. So it was really a good thing. When we went out there, we kind of looked at it, stared at it for a while, drove around about 6 times around the block, stared at it a little bit more and said, should we propose this sidewalks with the inner ring or the outer ring? And it seemed the most sense to go with the outer ring. And so we kind of put all these things into account before we brought them to you, just so you know kind of what we were thinking. I will tell you that, one more thing, Patrice. Our 400th anniversary is in next year. So as part of that effort, there's a bunch of different companies that are looking to donate trees. And we're hoping to use that, we're hoping to plant 400 trees this year. So these would be some of those replacements. Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I live on Decatur Road. I've been there for over 50 years in my own home. And we're in phase 2. We're not gonna be forgotten.
No, it won't be forgotten. We just need to spread the funding, we can't use all the funding in one neighborhood, even though I wholeheartedly understand that you deserve some work in there. So we'll probably be doing some road work in there too, on the pavement. So sections of the Panway are in the bid for this year, the bid opens tomorrow. So assuming the asphalt prices come in not crazy because of the war, we're hoping to do a little bit of road work too.
Phase 2 is what, next year?
We get funding in 2-year bouts. So it won't be next year, it'll be likely the year after that.
Just have to hang on and stick around long enough to see him.
Well, I certainly hope you will.
Good question. Right, presently, I'd say 25% of the vehicles from the houses are on the sidewalks now.
Yeah,
Is anything gonna be done to stop it afterwards? Because you can't walk on the sidewalks, it's bad enough you trip
No,
as it goes
I mean-
now anyway, but you can't,
so the sidewalks are they're
I mean,
not going to be, they're gonna be 6 feet off.
technically, isn't that city property?
Oh, it's definitely city road.
Okay.
Well,
because nobody's
and when I
talking
say
about
that, I wanna be clear, we're all city people, right?
Right,
It's all of our property.
I know we mow it, so I mean.
Yeah,
it's
you mow it, and
Technically,
but the
everybody's
city,
property.
the city has rights over it.
I mean.
So, yeah, but
right
there's
now,
still,
it's
so my
really
point
dangerous
is,
to walk out there.
here's my point. From the edge of the pavement to the start of the sidewalk, it's still gonna be 5.5, 6 feet away. So if you're of the type that you're gonna park on the sidewalk, even though it's 6 feet off the road, then I think that might warrant a police call. Yes, ma'am.
I was just curious on the trees themselves, it's kind of separate, but kind of related. We know that there are a couple, well, I don't know, maybe one every 3 years, give or take, that are labeled as needing to come down. Is that part of, will that be identified as well at the same time? Or
This project will only take down the trees that's necessary to build the sidewalk. We're not interested in taking down any additional trees. If however, I mean, we have 2 full-time arborists in the city who are very active in going around looking at the trees and trying to make sure that they're safe and they don't fall on people's heads. So I know that they routinely drive through your neighborhood because you do have so many trees. So we have to put good faith in them that they do great things.
Just curious.
Yes, sir.
So, you mentioned budget a couple times. It sounds like, I'm hoping that it is completely separate. But this budget for this project, does it have anything to do with the sound barrier project that we're all hoping for?
Totally,
So if we get this, there's no, a year
Nope.
from now, someone's.
totally different, totally different thing.
Yeah, okay.
Nothing to do with apples and oranges.
Dave, we got a couple questions on it.
Will the new trees be planted after sidewalk installation to replace those roads? Yes. And regarding the root heaving of the grass strips, will the entire town-owned grass strip be replaced as well? I'm not sure how to say that. It'll be regraded. It'll be removed where there's sidewalk. So they won't remove sod that's too low. What they typically do is they kind of low over it and then start on. Is that the?
So they'll restore any kind of.
They'll restore everything. So again, the back of the sidewalk, more or less, is the property line. It's your front property line. So we will endeavor not to go into your front yard. And if we do, we'll try to keep it minimal so that we're not screwing up your front lawns. And that's our kind of goal.
Decreasing the grass.
In the
Right
front,
now,
the grass between the
Yes.
road and the sidewalk.
it's pretty
small.
wide now and you're gonna
Right.
decrease
The grass
it.
from the back of the sidewalk to your house should stay in general the same.
But I like clarification about the parking.
Yes,
So if the sidewalk's being widened,
yes,
then that strip is less. So now people park on the sidewalk where it is now, never mind. Is it illegal? Is that what you're saying?
no, it's not illegal unless it's posted to be illegal.
I mean, on a public sidewalk, people can park their vehicle. That's what I'm trying to get at.
No, it's against, there's an ordinance against parking on the sidewalk.
No, I know what she's saying.
So-
Some people's driveways are shorter than others. And
Yes,
so if you have one car behind another,
and you're
the
blocking the
back end of
sidewalk,
the back end of the second car sort of crosses in between the 2 sidewalks.
yeah, that's a gray area.
But it is a gray area. I
It's a
don't
gray
see
area.
any solution to it.
Not really. Just, you know,
If you're walking, you're gonna have to go around the back of the
I mean,
house.
right now, you have a situation where nobody walks on the sidewalk because you can't.
Correct.
I
Right.
walk all the time. It's not easy.
Right, well, you probably power walk through the woods, too, right? So, once you have
Once you have a
picture in
nice
my mind,
sidewalk.
baby carriages going up and down the sidewalk.
Yes.
A stroller, whatever they're called. Dating myself,
My question though is,
then I think
if it's
it'll happen
wider
less often.
and people do park on the sidewalk, that is a new sidewalk.
There is a city ordinance that cannot park on the
I
sidewalk.
don't think it's gonna make any difference, Jennifer, because the sidewalk, if there's gonna be more cement, less grass, but the amount of space is the same.
People using their driveways
Right.
currently as they are, and then in the future wouldn't be penalized, correct? there's no change in how I park in my driveway,
You're allowed to park in your driveway.
right? But if I'm blocking the sidewalk because the length of the driveway is such that I would have to block the sidewalk and the sidewalks are widened, so then I'm blocking it more, would I be penalized?
No.
Does that help?
No, we would just hope that you park in such a way that people could go between cars. You know?
Yeah, we have,
Sometimes people park on the sidewalks.
And yeah.
I don't think they're gonna be able to. I don't think
Just
they're
got a
gonna be,
note.
I've never seen anyone literally park on the sidewalk. Have you?
We're gonna take a question from Janice Kelly.
Hi, Janice, you hear us?
Hi,
Hi.
hi. Who's gonna maintain them such as shoveling the sidewalks?
So our policy is the city has a certain number, a certain way that we plow sidewalks. We plow the main routes first. We plow the school routes with those main routes. Then we go downtown, we maintain those. And if we have multiple days where it doesn't snow, then we go and we start doing neighborhoods. That's our policy. So
What's the,
you're not gonna.
I didn't hear,
Out there and shovel the sidewalk because it's new. The city will maintain it because we maintain sidewalks in the city.
I didn't hear the last thing you said.
Okay. So
No,
did you hear about how we do the schools first?
yes, I heard the first two things, but I think number 3 I didn't hear.
Okay, so as we have time, once the main routes and the schools are done, then we start branching out in the neighborhoods and then we start, and with sidewalk tractors, we'll make appearances. Right now,
So-
Sherburne Road, right?
Yes.
So they'll do a loop through Panaway when they're going through Sherburne Road. That's the answer.
So the residents aren't expected to shovel the sidewalks in the meantime until you can get to them. Is that correct?
Not in Portsmouth. I mean, you know, you can, I do for my house, but you're not expected to. No, the shovel police aren't gonna show up.
Okay, good.
We have a question from Aaron Gargantia.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Read that.
Yeah.
Can't see it.
In some cases, case owners' properties are significantly impacted by root heaving as well. Can roots of removed trees in owner lawns be ground down to loam?
That's mine.
I think, you know, if we're removing a tree root, for the benefit of constructing the sidewalk, we will make sure to look at a case by case basis on restoring
So we're
private
gonna,
property that gets impacted.
because we're building the sidewalk on where the tree was, we have to remove the stumps.
Yeah.
When we pull the stump, a whole bunch of mess is gonna come with it. Anything that gets disturbed, we'll fix. Anything that's egregious, you know, we'll kind of reach over and fix. We wouldn't leave you with something like that on purpose.
And for any properties that are significantly impacted by that kind of effort, we're gonna have to work with the property owners to make sure we have, you know,
Permissions.
approval to make that, you know, mess in the first place. In addition to fix it up, so.
Okay, and then from Jocelyn, can you clarify if the sidewalks are planned for both sides of Colonial Loop? Or if they're only going to be on one side? So the answer is one side. If only one side, which side? It's the outer side. And also, will the asphalt sidewalks be removed on both sides? The answer is yes.
Could I check my understanding and make sure, based on the comment you just made, when you say just the outer sidewalk is gonna replace, does that include phase 1 and phase 2? It's only gonna be the outer sidewalk.
It's the outer sidewalk, and again, the reason why we made that decision is to save all the trees on the inside.
Gotcha. So when the sidewalk is removed on the inside, will that be loamed and sealed?
Yes, it
Okay.
will be, yes.
Also that you'll remove the old sidewalks on the other side of the street,
Yes,
grass it in.
yes.
Gotcha.
Will the removal of sidewalks in the phase 1 area be at the same time as the phase 1 replacement of the sidewalks, yes, absolutely. And if there are problematic trees in the removal area, will they be taken care of as well? So yes, we will assess all the trees. And if there's something dangerous besides the one we need to take down, we'll take care of it. But as I said, in general, we have 2 arborists on staff that monitor the trees, so.
And part of that tree and greeneries presentation that we'll have to do, we'll have to address the health of any trees that are in the area that we're currently working, so we'll end up blocking it with arborists. In addition to really paying attention to the ones we're concerned about, we'll be looking at all of them just to make sure there's none that have to
Or be trimmed.
or be trimmed.
Next question from Laura. What happens to the sidewalks in the inner ring of Colonial? They're removed, as well as those across from the planned ones on Mason and Decatur. So the sidewalks that are there now that are not going to be replaced get removed and loaned in. And the sidewalk, we'll put one sidewalk on Mason, we'll put one on Decatur too. And when we do phase 2, we'll do the same thing. We will look at the wires, we'll look at the trees, and we'll make a good decision about what side of the street they're on.
Go ahead.
Still along the same lines, I'm on the inside of Colonial. And we have 2 ginormous linden trees
Good,
and the roots are,
they can stay.
you know. So you're saying the sidewalks are gonna be removed, but the trees are staying?
That's right.
How,
You have lawn,
well,
Straight line.
the roots are, you know,
I think
How-
yours is gonna come down, because her particular tree she's talking about, I think you're going to take down anyway, because it's just completely intertwined with the power lines.
So, right, we'll look at that. But in general, when we loan, we're gonna fill a hole so that it's mowable. Now, if you have some roots that are kind of sticking up, you might have to go around. We're not gonna go crazy burying roots, because when you
right,
bury roots, the roots are exposed for a reason. Because the trees want them exposed. So if you bury the roots so that you can mow it easy, it's not good for the tree.
so if the asphalt's dug up, the roots right now have, you know, buckled the asphalt. So the asphalt's being removed.
Yeah.
The giant roots are still there.
Yes,
You're just loaming around
we
them.
will fill in the holes and divots to make it as nice as we can. Yeah. So Megan says, I think this is a nice proposal. Will the sidewalk project include any new street lighting? No, the answer is no. We don't do antique street lights in neighborhoods. We're not like a tax bill, we start doing stuff.
We do like safety, however, so who?
Safety is good, and if you feel that there are areas of your neighborhood that are dark and they need an additional street light, please reach out, let us know, and we will look at it.
Is it or Public Works?
Public Works, yeah, that's what we do. We do public stuff, that's why we got it right in the name.
Good public stuff.
Hi, I have a question that might make me unpopular. Is there any way that maybe we wouldn't do the sidewalks and just leave it as is, noting that to drive in our neighborhood, you have to drive about 15 to 20 miles per hour, for instance, then an crash or pedestrian hit. If you are using a sidewalk, and for me to use a sidewalk, I would have to cross the street anyway.
Yeah.
Is there just any way that we could allocate that funding towards getting us a non-motorized way to get to downtown or to one of the schools? That's just, I'm thinking about budget overall and our
Yeah.
access and walkability to the rest of the town.
Yeah.
And our safe walkability currently within our neighborhood, within reason, or within my current abilities. I know that I'm able-bodied and I don't have children, so I don't know. It was just a question.
So one of the reasons, the principal reason, really, we sent a survey out was, hey, how do you feel about this? Because we thought, well, maybe a lot of people wouldn't want us to remove any trees, and they would say, we're fine walking in the road. The evidence from the survey is contrary to that. So the support was pegged toward sidewalk, so that's why we're here.
Could you provide a little more clarity though on your, you said non-motorized mode of
Non-motorized.
transportation to town, what
I
are you referring to?
work in transportation.
Yeah.
Research, and so that's part of it, but so there's no way to get to town, to get to downtown or to get here safely on, without a car. So we're isolated as a neighborhood.
Well, let's put some caveats on that. So
Okay.
you are a lot less isolated than you were even a few years ago, right?
Yeah,
You have a bridge that goes over the railroad tracks that goes down Middle Road. You have a new sidewalk that goes past the Eileen Dondero Drive that goes to Islington Street.
I would not.
You
feel
have
safe going there.
a new crosswalk that's going in across the bypass from Borthwick over to the new road, which is not Coakley Road, but Hodgson Way. Okay, we have in the CIP to put new sidewalk along Borthwick from the bypass up to where it stops by the hospital now. So all these things are being done so that you'll have 3 ways to get to walk into town.
Yes, I totally appreciate that. I don't feel safe walking down Warwick Avenue by myself.
Even on a sidewalk?
No.
Okay.
I think if you've walked and seen like a camp, yeah, I just don't feel safe in that area. I'd rather walk on a more like eyes on the street kind of place. But that's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
But so that was just some of my thinking around that, and that's me bringing in other ones.
I think there's other solutions. We used to have a bus every hour on the hour years ago.
I know.
To the, neighborhoods to town.
Yeah,
Neighborhoods to town, but that's another transportation issue.
was that back when the base was open?
No, it was back when our neighborhood was built.
Really?
Back in the 50s.
Every
Yeah.
hour on the hour, a bus went by, picked up, not everybody had cars.
Yeah, no, that's the way it should
And
be.
so you could go downtown, you paid your bills in person, had lunch at Newberry's and took the bus home.
No, I will tell you, I was just in Europe, I just went to the UK, and I was amazed how much public transportation there is.
It really is a shame we're not taking advantage of it.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, we have a question from Abigail.
And Tyler, would you mind switching back to the slide that shows where the sidewalk is going to be? The yellow loop and the map. Thanks.
Abigail, can you hear us?
Yes.
Go ahead.
My question is kind of indirect with the sidewalks. I have a neighbor that is very, very rude and always parks directly behind my driveway. Is there any way when you guys put the new sidewalks in that you can also put a no parking sign? Like on the other side of the street by my house? In front of 234? I mean, I'm not trying to be funny. This is a real problem, and it's been a problem with the last 4 people that have ever lived in that house. They're always on the street and it's very narrow and we can't back our cars out safely. So that was something we've brought up to the city a couple of times. We've always gotten laughed out like you just did, but it's really a problem. Is there a way to put a sign out when you guys put the new sidewalks?
It's Abigail, we'll get in touch with you separately to see what kind of solution there is to try and follow through on something. No parking requests go through parking traffic and safety. This.
It is becoming a safety problem. That's why I'm bringing it up.
Okay, well, if we can, you said you're at 234, we'll figure out a means to get in touch with you and help you with what the approach would be.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to be here after a while. It will be the next people in my house, but it's just, this is an ongoing problem. So yes, I appreciate you bringing it up to somebody else that can help me.
Thank you.
Okay. We have a new chat from Aaron, says, can we consider connecting the hospital sidewalk to the new West End Yard sidewalk So I'm not sure that you heard me, I just addressed that, but there is a capital plan to extend that sidewalk in the very near future. So, Jocelyn, just a comment for your committee, per the transition comments, it's 3.5 mile walk to downtown. And it is safer now than it's ever been. I've walked it many times and it's a safe walk. Having the new sidewalk by the Plains Field has also been a game changer. The new sidewalks by you all are also awesome. Thank you. Work hard to try to put all this stuff in. We glad to appreciate it.
Back on attendees, just see if there's any other.
Could the grass strip be eliminated for an on-street parking space where people would like to park on the grass strip? No, we will not do that. Yes.
On George's Terrace, we have one very old apple tree maybe.
Okay.
It's the one tree in the whole neighborhood that's climbable, from toddlers to people my age. It's loved by everybody. I had sent an email to Colin Hollowell to check it out.
Yep.
It's rotting, it just needs attention. And I'd appreciate if someone, while you're out there, takes a look at that tree to see if there's anything you can do to make sure it lasts.
You ready there, Doug? Corey, go just step.
I don't think I've ever seen.
It's the
you climb
funnest
that tree.
tree, huh?
I said, I don't think I've ever seen you climbing.
You haven't seen me do it, but I
Can you see
can.
what's on the screen?
Oh, you should be climbing trees, Mom. That's your son. I can get in that one.
Okay, so,
That's pretty.
good. So, yes,
Just as a kind of a, I know we're kind of nearing the end. I want to thank the city basically for, we kind of sometimes feel a little left out since Everett retired. Everett was our reporter for so many years. I just the other day, there was it wasn't that close of an issue, but a couple of kids riding bikes and a FedEx truck. It was a little too close for comfort.
Yeah.
And we have some of these kids that are of the age where they can ride their bikes around the neighborhood. It's a safe neighborhood. I'm
Sure.
not supposed to say that, but it is. I'm really just thankful for the amount of young children that we have now. My daughter will tell you 18 years ago, she was the only child in the neighborhood. It wasn't really true, but there are a lot of kids that are at that age of being outside and able to gather together. And you see it here and there, some cars that come through really rapid pace. Whole separate issue, that's police, I get it. But just having the thought of kind of getting these kids that are out there riding bikes and walking together, that they can have a nice ride, because you're right, nobody uses them.
Ours is just a path.
18 years to walk to
I walk all the
Donna's
time.
house with 2 houses down.
I can't walk to your
I've
house,
never
I tell myself.
I've never stepped foot on a sidewalk in our neighborhood.
we know.
It's a good
And
thing.
Maple Haven has a safe road,
Yeah.
you know,
Do they?
it's- yeah, it's a safe thing, so.
So we just
less streets.
We're so happy you're doing this.
Yes, and that's why I want to make sure, I know there's a lot of questions and we want to know kind of the overall picture. And maybe I'm just speaking personally, but I'm very thankful. It is a property value issue as well. When
Understood.
people have kids, dogs, ride bikes, jog, walk, whatever they do outside, to have a nice sidewalk in a neighborhood improves our property values. Not for taxation purposes, but
It was doing so well.
it is something. I have had buyers in our own neighborhood be like, you guys can walk on the street. Like, I don't want my kids riding. So I think this is a good thing, and just appreciate the thought that you're putting into it.
No, we think it's a good thing too. So we'll be going, like I said, we'll be going to Trees and Greenery next month, a month from today. To get their blessing. Mark and I are gonna be working crazy as soon as he gets back, trying to save every tree we can. That's realistic. Trees that are all heaved up and are too wide, just expect they're gonna go. But, like I said, quick drive-by, we had 29 trees.
Can you tell by your map if the tree in front of my house is gone? 'Cause I hope it is. In the tree, in the, not the one on my lawn, the one in the front. With the mountain in the sidewalk.
Do you know how many trees there are?
I'm ready to let it go.
Yeah, there's over 100 on both sides, there's like 45 on the sidewalk side.
So 30-ish, 33%.
Yeah, so, we're keeping more than half. It's, I still think it's horrible, but I think it's worth it, so. I just, it's just sad to see that much candy all at once.
We don't have trees. So we pay to have all our neighbors' leaves taken from our yard. I don't.
Which is nice of you. It really is. I got an uncle like that. He's got the same problem.
Some come down, we live just enough of a curve.
Yeah?
that
Oh, yeah,
goes
we
on.
got the house. Did you get tax rate on that?
You kidding me?
Someone noted that they wanted to let tree and greenery, or they want public input on tree and greenery, so that's selection of tree species. What we'll do is, we have, the folks that registered, we have their email addresses, we have email addresses here, so we can notify people prior to that meeting. Just so you're aware that it'll be up in front of the board. It's an early morning meeting, 7:30, I think they meet.
Eight.
Eight.
Was there this morning? 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock it is.
I
So
was there
at
too.
least give you a heads up, for those that are interested in supporting or having issues.
Will you be planting in areas where there aren't trees now?
It's very likely that, we don't know really, but
Okay,
where we remove stumps, whether we're grinding them, the majority of these are so big, they're likely to be removed, so we might be able to plant in the same location, but
There's
we
just
try to work
parts
that out.
of
But,
it that
but
don't
here's the
have it.
one thing that we try to do. We try to figure out where people's sewer lines are and water lines.
Yes.
And we try not to plant trees on top. We don't always succeed, but we try. That's the honest truth, so maybe a tree right now might be living on top of your sewer line. And so we might move it a little bit.
Might not have started there.
Right,
That's fine.
right, okay, so that's the,
Yes, because that is, we've had a few
I know,
and they're all coming due at some point.
they're all coming
Mine was,
due relatively soon.
Yeah.
Right,
I had a partial save on mine, but there was a
right,
tree up
that's
front.
probably just a temporary state of execution.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very
much.
We always appreciate your input, like I said, we learn a lot in these things, we don't live there, we think we know about your street, but. We never
We
know.
appreciate your
Prior to
responsiveness,
leaving-
interest, and
Yes,
energy that you put
yes,
into this.
thank you.
Prior to leaving, we still have two additional
Oh.
comments from online.
Oh.
Janice Kelly?
Yes, hi.
Hi,
I'm on the blue side of Colonial.
okay,
When the plows come by on a sidewalk, on a street that has sidewalks on one side and none on the other side, do they
Yes.
put the snow on the blue side?
no.
I was looking around at the sidewalks after the snow, and
Yeah.
it seemed to me that the sidewalk sides, where there are sidewalks, don't have the big plow walls, I call them, in front of them. So I'm saying to myself, maybe
Well,
they purposely
No,
dump it on the other side.
we endeavor to make sure that everybody gets their fair share of white gold. Because we all know how much everybody loves moving the white
Okay.
gold in the seacoast where it's concrete.
Okay,
The most fun of all time, thanks.
thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Curious.
Councilor Bagley?
Thank
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah, I just had a couple comments. First, I wanted to thank city staff for a great presentation. And then more importantly, I wanted to thank all the residents that showed up to ask questions, and very excited to see that we had a high response rate and that it was 90% in favor. It's not often we get to do projects where, you're never going to get 100%, but to get 90% is great. So, and then final note, there is a contact all city councilors option where you can contact us individually on the website. So if you have questions about parking, or you have questions about street lighting, or you have questions, anything to do with your neighborhood, please don't hesitate to use that option to get in touch with us. We don't get that many requests. So if you do send a request in, you're likely to get a response. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you all for.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Like on person.
Yeah.
But recording is.
Did you shut off the recording?